ladies and gentlemen. There is a notion that pervades our lives with subtle force, one that often shapes our decisions and our very sense of worth. It is the desire for approval. From the earliest moments of life, we are taught to seek the affirmation of others, whether it is the applause of a crowd or the quiet nod of approval from those around us. We are conditioned to believe that our value is tied to the opinions of others. Yet, the more we chase after these fleeting validations, the more we risk losing sight of something far more precious, our own dignity. Dignity, by its very nature, is not something that can be bestowed by others. It is an internal state of being, forged through self-respect and moral integrity. It is not something that can be measured by how much applause we garner or how many accolades are heaped upon us. True dignity exists in the quiet moments of decision, when we stand firm in our principles, regardless of the opinions swirling around us. Even worse, saying the right thing when the wrong principles swirling around us, the world, in all its wisdom and folly, will pass judgment. But it is only when we remain anchored to our own sense of worth, unshaken by external forces, that we truly demonstrate dignity. This pursuit of dignity is not without its temptations, for as we move through life, we are confronted by the ever-present lure of approval. There is no shame in desiring acceptance. It is, after all, a natural inclination. Yet it is in the clutches of this desire that we must exercise caution. For approval, as essential as it may seem in moments of doubt, is a fickle and ever-changing force. It can sway with the tide of public opinion, shift with the winds of circumstance, and often it holds little true understanding of who we are or what we stand for. To live a life based on the approval of others is to live a life constantly at the mercy of external forces. The moment you depend on the opinions of others for your self-worth, you abdicate control of your own life. It is everything or nothing, and it is the death sentence of many tribes. True strength lies not in our ability to gain approval, but in our capacity to choose self-respect over it. To honor oneself is to understand that our worth is not contingent upon another's perception. It is a quiet drive that pulls us forward, not for praise or recognition, but for the satisfaction of knowing we have acted with integrity and aligned with our values. Self-respect is the firm foundation upon which we can build our character, unshaken by the shifting tides of others' opinions. It is this drive, this resolute determination, that fosters true progress. When we live by our own principles, unbothered by the noise around us, we begin to forge a life that is both meaningful and independent of the transient forces of approval. In a world that constantly shifts, the one thing that remains constant is our internal compass, our dignity. This dignity is not subject to the whims of others. It is ours to nurture, protect, and cultivate. In choosing self-respect over approval, we take the first step towards a life well lived. It is not a life of perfection, nor one free of challenges, but a life that is authentically our own, a life driven not by the external world, but by the unwavering respect we hold for ourselves. And in the end, this is the life that brings true satisfaction, for it is the life that aligns with our deepest truth. Dignity, at its core, is an internal sense of worth and self-respect that transcends external judgments and societal approval. It is not dependent on the applause of a crowd or the recognition from others, but rather on the quiet conviction that one is living in alignment with their values and principles. Unlike status, fame, or superficial achievements that can be fleeting, dignity is a steadfast companion that endures through the highs and lows of life. The foundation of dignity rests in self-awareness and a strong moral compass. Self-awareness involves an understanding of one's own thoughts, feelings, actions, and motivations. It allows an individual to reflect on their decisions and recognize the internal moral guidelines that govern them. When one is grounded in self-awareness, dignity naturally emerges because their actions are driven by a clear sense of who they are and what they stand for. It is not a surface-level understanding, but an in-depth recognition of one's true nature. This level of self-awareness leads to a sense of pride that is not rooted in what others think, but in the integrity of one's own choices. On the other hand, the external world often seeks to impose its standards of worth upon us. Society often measures success by outward achievements, wealth, social status, beauty, or popularity. These external markers of success are constantly changing, and as such they cannot provide the kind of lasting fulfillment or self-assurance that dignity offers. When our self-worth is anchored in the opinions of others, we risk losing sight of who we truly are. The fleeting nature of public approval means that any satisfaction derived from it is temporary, leaving us constantly searching for the next source of validation. Dignity is also closely tied to the ability to make decisions independently of others' judgments. When we make choices based on our internal compass, rather than the expectations or opinions of others, we preserve our dignity. Every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the preservation of our sense of self. When we compromise on our beliefs in the hopes of pleasing others or gaining approval, we erode the foundation of dignity. Each instance of self-betrayal, no matter how subtle, creates a fracture in the armor of our integrity. On the contrary, every time we act in accordance with our values, even in the face of opposition, we strengthen the resolve that holds our dignity intact. It is important to recognize that dignity does not demand perfection. It does not imply that we will never falter or make mistakes. Instead, dignity is the quiet confidence that, even in moments of weakness or failure, we remain true to our principles. It is the understanding that we are inherently worthy of respect, regardless of our past actions or mistakes. Dignity involves a constant striving to do better, but it also allows for grace and self-compassion, knowing that our worth is not diminished by our imperfections. Dignity allows us to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. Life will present numerous challenges that test our resolve. The opinions of others may seek to shake our confidence, and societal pressures may attempt to redirect our paths. However, when we are anchored in dignity, we are able to face these challenges with poise and resilience. The knowledge that we are living in alignment with our values becomes a source of strength that shields us from the turbulence of external forces. This inner strength is not based on a facade of invincibility, but on the quiet assurance that we have a foundation within ourselves that cannot be easily shaken. In many ways, dignity is the opposite of external validation. While approval from others can be fleeting, dignity is a lasting quality that does not waver. It is not something that can be given or taken away by external forces. True dignity is rooted in a deep understanding of one's own worth, not based on the praise of others, but on the intrinsic value that every person carries within them. It is a sense of self-respect that is independent of the judgments, opinions, and approval of others. Insight. The power of dignity lies in its ability to keep us grounded when the world around us seems to be in constant motion. While others may seek to manipulate us with praise or criticism, dignity keeps us centered, reminding us that our value comes not from the opinions of others, but from our own actions and integrity. It allows us to move through life with confidence, knowing that we are living in accordance with our true selves. Dignity also allows for self-reliance, as it encourages us to trust our inner judgment rather than relying on others to define us. This self-reliance is not about isolation, but about cultivating a deep sense of trust in our ability to make decisions that are right for us. It empowers us to act from a place of authenticity, free from the pressure to conform to societal norms or the expectations of others. In this way, dignity becomes a source of personal liberation, allowing us to live in harmony with ourselves rather than constantly seeking approval from the outside world. The desire for approval is an instinct that runs deep within human nature, often guiding our decisions, shaping our behavior, and even influencing our identity. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek validation, first from parents, then from teachers, peers, and society at large. Approval becomes a reward, a sign that we are accepted, valued, and worthy of love or success. Yet, as we mature, it becomes increasingly clear that this pursuit of approval can be both limiting and counterproductive. While the desire for approval is natural, it often leads us away from our authentic selves and places our sense of worth in the hands of others. One of the fundamental issues with seeking approval is that it forces us to live in a constant state of external validation. When we depend on others for our sense of self-worth, we become like ships tossed by the waves, vulnerable to the shifting tides of public opinion. External approval is fickle. It can change from one moment to the next, often based on superficial or transient factors. One day we may be praised for a particular achievement, and the next we may be forgotten or even criticized for the same thing. The pursuit of approval can therefore become an exhausting cycle, where we are never truly content because we are always looking for the next form of validation. When we seek approval, we risk compromising our authenticity. To gain approval from others, we may find ourselves adapting our behavior, thoughts, and actions to fit into the mold that is expected of us. We may suppress our true desires, beliefs, and opinions in order to please those around us or to conform to societal standards. In doing so, we forfeit our individuality, and in the process, we can lose touch with the very qualities that make us unique. The desire for approval can make us become people we were never meant to be, simply to secure validation from others. In many instances, the desire for approval can also lead to an unhealthy dependence on others' opinions. When we consistently seek approval, we begin to rely on the external world to tell us who we are and what we should do. This dependency on external validation undermines our autonomy and robs us of the ability to make independent decisions based on our own judgment. Instead of trusting our instincts, we begin to second-guess ourselves, wondering what others would think or how they would react. In doing so, we abandon our own sense of self and become like chameleons, constantly changing to fit the expectations of others. This cycle of dependence can become all-consuming, leading us to a place where we are no longer in control of our own lives. The pursuit of approval can perpetuate feelings of insecurity and anxiety. When we place our worth in the hands of others, we subject ourselves to their judgments, criticisms, and expectations. This opens the door to self-doubt, as we may begin to question whether we are truly good enough or worthy of love and acceptance. The fear of rejection or disapproval can become paralyzing, leading us to overthink our actions or avoid situations where we may face criticism. The result is a constant state of anxiety and self-consciousness, where we are never able to fully relax or be ourselves. In this way, the desire for approval can steal our peace of mind and prevent us from living authentically. Seeking approval also creates an illusion of happiness and fulfillment. While it may feel gratifying in the short term to be praised or admired, this sense of fulfillment is often temporary. The validation we receive from others is inherently unstable and subject to change. What brings us approval today may no longer be valued tomorrow. And as we continue to seek external validation, we find ourselves caught in a never-ending pursuit of something that can never truly satisfy. It is like chasing a mirage. No matter how much we chase after approval, it always seems just out of reach, and once we obtain it, it vanishes quickly, leaving us yearning for more. The pursuit of approval can distract us from our true goals and purpose in life. When we prioritize what others think of us, we can lose sight of what truly matters to us. We become so preoccupied with meeting external expectations that we neglect our own passions, interests, and ambitions. Instead of pursuing what we believe is meaningful, we may find ourselves chasing after goals that were never ours to begin with, goals shaped by the desires of others. This detachment from our own true purpose can lead to a life that feels hollow and unfulfilling, as we realize that we have been living according to the rules set by others rather than following our own inner calling. The relentless pursuit of approval can also lead to a cycle of people-pleasing. Many individuals, in their desire to gain approval, go out of their way to make others happy, often at the expense of their own well-being. They may say yes to requests they do not want to fulfill, compromise their values to avoid conflict, or hide their true opinions to maintain harmony. In doing so, they may lose touch with their own desires and needs, becoming nothing more than a reflection of the people around them. While the desire to help others and be liked is not inherently wrong, constantly prioritizing the approval of others can result in a loss of personal boundaries and a sense of self. The desire for approval can also create a sense of competition, where individuals constantly compare themselves to others in order to gain validation. This comparison is often detrimental, as it breeds feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. When we measure our worth against the achievements or opinions of others, we set ourselves up for disappointment and dissatisfaction. It becomes a race with no finish line, where the goalposts are constantly moving and we are always left feeling like we are not enough. Self-respect is the cornerstone of a life of fulfillment, growth, and independence. It is the internal acknowledgement of one's own worth and dignity, independent of external approval or validation. While the desire for external approval often leads us to compromise or conform, self-respect acts as a guiding force that encourages us to remain true to ourselves and our values. Choosing self-respect over the pursuit of external validation allows us to build a solid foundation for a life of purpose, integrity, and true satisfaction. At its core, self-respect is a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. It is an internal sense of honor, a quiet recognition of our worth which doesn't depend on what others think or say about us. It comes from understanding our own strengths and weaknesses and accepting ourselves as we are. Self-respect is not about arrogance or superiority, but about recognizing our inherent value and acting in ways that reflect that understanding. It is about treating ourselves with the same kindness, compassion, and respect that we extend to others. When we respect ourselves, we are less likely to seek external validation to feel worthy or accepted. We know that our value is not contingent on the approval of others. It is intrinsic and it is unshakable. Choosing self-respect over approval means prioritizing our own needs, values, and beliefs, rather than bending to the pressures of others. In moments of decision, when faced with the option of pleasing others or staying true to our own principles, self-respect gives us the strength to choose the path that aligns with our authenticity. This often requires courage, for it may involve standing alone or going against the expectations of those around us. However, the reward for such choices is immense. The peace of mind that comes from knowing that we are living according to our own standards, not someone else's. It is the satisfaction of knowing that we are not compromising our integrity for fleeting approval. Self-respect also builds resilience. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, and without a strong sense of self-respect, it is easy to succumb to external pressures and lose sight of our true purpose. However, when we respect ourselves, we develop the emotional and psychological strength needed to navigate the inevitable difficulties of life. Self-respect empowers us to bounce back from failure, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep moving forward with determination. It helps us recognize that we are worthy of success, happiness, and fulfillment, even in the face of adversity. When we maintain self-respect, we cultivate an inner strength that enables us to persevere through difficult times, knowing that our worth is not defined by our circumstances. Self-respect also plays a crucial role in how we relate to others. It sets the standard for how we allow others to treat us. When we respect ourselves, we establish healthy boundaries and do not tolerate disrespect or mistreatment from others. We understand that we deserve to be treated with dignity, and we do not settle for less. This does not mean that we expect perfection from others, but rather that we expect fairness, kindness, and mutual respect in our relationships. People who respect themselves are more likely to attract relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding. They are not willing to tolerate toxic or unhealthy dynamics because they know their worth and refuse to settle for less than they deserve. Self-respect encourages personal growth. It motivates us to become the best version of ourselves, not for the sake of gaining approval or recognition, but because we understand that we deserve to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. When we respect ourselves, we take responsibility for our actions and choices. We recognize that we have the power to shape our own destiny, and we commit to making decisions that align with our values and long-term goals. This dedication to personal growth leads to a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that is far more lasting than the temporary pleasure of external validation. It is a fulfilling journey, grounded in self-awareness, that enriches our lives and helps us become the individuals we are meant to be. Another important aspect of self-respect is its role in fostering inner peace. When we prioritize external approval, we become vulnerable to the opinions and judgments of others, which can lead to anxiety, confusion, and a lack of direction. We may constantly second-guess our decisions or feel uncertain about our choices. However, when we choose self-respect, we cultivate a sense of inner peace because we trust ourselves. We know that our decisions are guided by our values, not by the whims of others. We understand that we are enough just as we are, and that we do not need to constantly seek the approval of others to feel good about ourselves. This peace is not contingent on circumstances. It comes from a deep-rooted understanding that we are living in alignment with our true selves. Choosing self-respect over approval also allows us to live with greater authenticity. It gives us the freedom to express ourselves honestly, without fear of judgment or rejection. We are not afraid to share our opinions, pursue our passions, or make decisions that are true to our heart, even if they go against the grain. Self-respect empowers us to be authentic in our relationships, work, and personal lives. It allows us to embrace our individuality and express our uniqueness without seeking to conform to societal expectations. This authenticity brings a sense of joy and satisfaction that cannot be replicated by external praise or recognition. It is a deep sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing we are living as our true selves. Our self-transformation so that we can live in the possibility of true selves. Choosing self-respect fosters a healthy relationship with failure. When we rely on external validation, failure can feel like a personal indictment of our worth. We may internalize criticism or setbacks, believing that they define who we are. However, when we respect ourselves, we view failure as a natural part of the growth process. We understand that failure does not diminish our worth. Rather, it provides valuable lessons that help us improve and grow. Self-respect allows us to maintain our dignity even in the face of setbacks and challenges. It gives us the courage to keep trying, knowing that our worth is not defined by our successes or failures, but by our commitment to living authentically and with integrity.